Hello, class. Good afternoon to everyone. So, this afternoon, I'm going to discuss the penal provisions and also the final provisions. Okay, so let's begin our discussion. So, in the penal provisions, the local government code provides a penalties for violations of its provisions. So, the following provisions are applicable to local officials involved in assessment operations. So, in section 1, so any local official or any person who will involve trying to deal with him who violate the prohibition provided under Section 89 of Book 1 of the Local Government Code shall be punished with imprisonment of from 6 months and 1 day to 6 years, or a fine of not less than 3,000 pesos, not more than 10, and also not or more than 10,000 pesos, or both imprisonment and fine at the discretion of the court. So if the local government code will provide penalties for violations of its provisions, the following provisions are applicable to local officials who are involved in assessment operations. So in section 2, the same section 89 of the code enumerates the following prohibited business and pecuniary interests. Number one, engaging in any business agreement with the local government unit in which he is an official or employee, or over which he has the power of supervision, or with any of its authorized boards, officials, agents, or attorneys under which money is to be compensated, or property or any other thing of value is to be transferred directly or indirectly out of the resources of the local government unit to such person or firm. So in section 2, the same, in section 89 of the code, that enumerates the following prohibited business and also the pecuniary interests. This one is holding of this kind of involvement in whatsoever um, cockpit or other games licensed by a local government unit, and also purchasing any real estate or other estate forfeited in favor of such local government unit for tax due or assessment, or by virtue of a legal process at the same instance of the said local government unit, and becoming a surety for any individual contracting or doing a business with the local government unit for which a surety is required, and also obtaining or using any public property of the local government unit for a private purpose. And in section 3, any officer charged with the duty of assessing a real property who willfully fails to assess, or who intentionally omits from the assessment or tax roll any real property which he knows to be taxable, or who willfully or negligently under assesses any real property, or who intentionally violates or fails to perform any duty imposed upon him by the law relating to the assessment of a taxable real property shall, upon conviction, be punished by a fine of not less than a 1,000 pesos or more than 5,000 pesos, or by imprisonment of not less than 1 month or more than 6 months, or both such fine and imprisonment at the discretion of the court. So similar penalties apply if a public official is charged with collecting property taxes intentionally or negligently, negligently. It fails to collect the tax and also initiate the necessary procedures for collection. So the any other officials who is required under this act to take action related to the administration of property tax or to assist an assessor or treasurer who willfully fails to do so may be convicted to fine 500 pesos or less 5,000 pesos or imprisonment for not less than 1 month and not more than 6 months or both such fine and imprisonment at the discretion of the court. As indicated in Section 4, a government official who deliberately delays the appraisal or appeal of a property appraisal will be convicted and fined not less than 500 pesos at the discretion of the court, not to exceed 5,000 pesos, and also imprisonment for a period not exceeding a 1 month and not exceeding 6 months, for both a fine and imprisonment. So for our final provisions, in Section 1, it stated that a repealing clause that all rules, the regulations, and orders inconsistent with the provisions hereof are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. And in Section 2, the separability clause, if for any reason or reasons, any part or provision of this manual shall be held to be unconstitutional or invalid, and other parts or provisions hereof which are not affected thereby shall continue to be in full force and effect. And in our Section 3, effectivity clause, this assessment manual shall take effect immediately. So then let's have a glimpse, class. Let's uh, discuss the subclassification criteria of some properties that are under the assessment of the local government units. So first, a commercial lands. So in commercial lands, the first uh, class commercial lands are those located along the concrete roads where the highest trading or social, educational activities of the city or the municipality take place. And also, a concrete or high-grade commercial or buildings or business buildings are situated where vehicular and pedestrian traffic uh, flow are exceptionally busy, apparently commands the highest commercial land value in the city or in the municipality. So if these uh, characteristics are fall into a certain property, it will be classified as a first class commercial lots. And for those who are in the second class, somehow there are some relevant characteristic, but let's determine what the characteristic that differs. Uh, First, no, the along concrete or asphalt road, similar to our first class. Then second is where trading, social or activities are considerably high, but falls short from that of the first class. And also where semi-concrete commercials or business buildings are also situated, and where vehicular and pedestrian traffic flow are considered busy. But compared to our first class commercial lands, they fall short from that of the first class commercial lands. So if you compared it, it is a little bit lowered in terms of numbers and frequency, and also it commands a lesser value than for the first class commercial lands. Then our third class commercial lands uh, along concrete or asphalt road. Okay, And also tradings, social, and educational activities are also significantly less compared to the second class and first class. And also leverage or average grade commercial or business buildings are also situated, and vehicular and pedestrian traffic follows are fairly busy and command lesser value than the second class commercial lands. And the fourth, along all weather roads, so there will be rough roads and or not concrete roads. So the trading, social, and also the educational activities are somehow significantly low, but also predominant. And also mixed commercial and residential buildings are situated, and with a regularly less busy vehicular and pedestrian traffic. So the value for the fourth class, it is more lesser compared to the previous, the first, the second, and the third class commercial lands. Okay, next is our residential lands. So for our residential lands, um, let's uh, decipher. No, let's have another first class commercial land, first class residential lands. So these properties are along the concrete road with a high-grade apartment or the residential buildings or predominantly situated where high-grade apartments and also where public utility transportation facilities are exceptionally regular towards major trading centers located next to a commercially classified lands, and also where water, electric, and telephone facilities are available, and it commands the highest residential land value in the city or municipality, and also free from squatter. So for the third class residential lands along all weather roads, yes, and where average grade residential buildings are predominantly situated, and public utility transportation facilities are regular towards major trading center located next to the second class residential lands. And also the water and electric facilities are available, and it commands the lesser value compared to the previous, the first and second class residential lands. So for our fourth, the major characteristic that we can immediately recognize is the type of road. So for the fourth class, it is only a all-weather road. So it is not a concrete or asphalt. So in that case, it's been categorized as a fourth class residential lands. And it has a low grade residential buildings that are more predominant and located next to the third class residential lands. And the public utility transportation facilities are somehow irregular. It's not really frequent, the, the transportation in this area. And where water facilities are commonly pumped well. And in terms of value, it is more cheaper compared to the uh, first, the second, third. And the fifth, uh, class residential lands. So predominantly, we can notice that it is undeveloped residential area. And with that category, the facilities, transportation are irregular, and it is more farther uh, compared to, it is quite far to our trading centers. And also, the residential buildings are still scarcely constructed. So that is the uh, fifth class residential lands. So the residential land subdivision, this one, is classified according to the degree or extent of the development and facilities regardless of its location from the trading center or within the city or municipality. So therefore, the respective schedule of a base market value shall be independently established based from the sales analysis of the lots therein. So the unit's market value for subdivision lots shall not, under any circumstance, be less than adjoining lands classified in accordance with the above criteria for subclassification. Okay, so next is the industrial lands. So first class industrial lands, um, the first thing that we can notice is the roads are concrete and asphalt, and it is along the road. And the location is within 10,000 meters from the major trading center or the within the city or municipality. So the vicinity is extensively used for industrial purposes. So if you look at the the overall location, the overall use of the property, it belongs to it is being used for industrial purposes. So here in Iloilo, you can notice this if you go nearby in the Pavia area, where the Vita Rich, the Love Feeds, and also other industrial establishments are just close to each other. And it commands the highest industrial land value in the city or municipality. So because it's considered as first class, the location is more accessible, and uh, and also the properties that are nearby or the adjacent properties are the same, predominantly being used for this purpose. Okay, next is the second class industrial lands. So the same in our first class, that is along the concrete or asphalt public road, sea coast or navigable river. But in terms of the distance to the major trading centers of the city or municipality, uh, it is less, it is more or beyond the 10,000 meters for our first class. So it's around not beyond 50,000 meters. So in terms of value, if you compare it to our first class, it will be a little bit lower. So because of the uh, first criterion, the, the distance from the major trading centers are a little bit farther, and where the VCT is extensively used for industrial purposes, somehow similar to our first class industrial lands. And for the third class, so in terms of the location, it is a little bit farther compared to the first and the second class. It's more than 50,000 meters for the going to the major trading centers of the city or municipality. Although they have somehow shows the same uh, use in terms of industrial purposes, the vicinity is majority of the properties are being used for this the purpose. It commands a lesser value compared to the first and also to the second. So, okay, class. So this is the end of the lecture. And for our reference, you may also check the Manual on Real Property Appraisal and Assessment Operations. Um, I think this is in the chapter 9. So thank you, class, for being part of this lecture. So if you have some uh, questions, or if you want to share some information, you can PM or message me so that we can have a follow-up discussion. Okay, so thank you very much for joining again in our lecture, and I hope to see you again on our next lesson.